Robert McDonald, who was a Secret Service agent. Thank you so much for joining us, taking the time this morning. The acting director of the Secret Service, as you just heard there, faced a pretty tough grilling on Capitol Hill. Here's another tense exchange with Republican Senator Ted Cruz.
How many requests did the Trump team or the Trump detail ask for?
I can get you that number in a queue.
You don't know now. Okay, so there's a bureaucracy. Is there a decision maker?
It's not a bureaucracy, Senator.
Give me the person that's a decision maker. Is there one?
Senator, it's a conversation. It's not just an absolute yay or nay.
So let me tell you what I believe. I believe that the Secret Service leadership made a political decision.
Robert, watching this hearing, those tense moments, what stood out to you?
Well, good morning, Brooks. It's very nice to be with you this morning. Look, I think the overall posture that the director or acting director of the Secret Service took in contrast to the testimony of former Director Cheadle last week is a great step in the right direction. I think it showed that the service is going to try to take ownership of this, as they should. They need to figure out how to use this as a reboot, a reset, and try to figure out how to make sure that these things don't happen again. He's absolutely right. That was a failure on July 13th, and we have to remember that. We have to remember the victim that we lost in that situation and the two people that got hurt, as well as the former president being hit with that bullet. So the Secret Service is not done with its work. It's got to keep figuring out how to move forward here and figure out the whys and wherefores of how this happened and really key in on that communication issue with various agencies as we move forward in the campaign season.
What questions do you still have after, these weeks of investigations and hearing that testimony yesterday?
Well, I think the asset allocation is going to be talked a little bit about some more, why certain assets may not have been in place, why certain assets may not have been approved till the last minute, why there wasn't more of a face-to-face communication with all those entities. The Secret Service cannot do what it does without the help of local, state, and federal partners. And it's incumbent upon the Secret Service to talk about all the what ifs that could happen at a certain event or a scenario. That normally happens, and for whatever reason, we're getting information that may not have happened in this case in the way that it should have, so that those issues would not arise during the actual event.
As we heard in yesterday's hearing, the acting director of the Secret Service said that he's not going to rush to judgment. But there has been so much talk about accountability, and you heard some of those lawmakers, it seems, looking for someone else to lose their job. So far, the only person who has was the now former director, Kimberly Cheadle. Do you think someone else should lose their job for this?
Well, I think as you said, there needs to be some accountability, but there needs to be some visible accountability. I understand why he can't necessarily put out agents' names or let people know who's actually doing what they were doing when they were doing it. He needs to keep that under his tutelage as the director. But people need to see accountability. People need to know that if you don't act in a proper way or follow the policies or procedures or allow something like this to happen, there has to be a visible accountability, whether that's a reassignment, a demotion, whatever it is. The troops on the ground need to see that there is accountability for the actions that they have. The Secret Service's job is very important. They have a no-fail mission, and they have to go out every day, as they have been since July 13th, and doing the very best they can. But there needs to be a visible accountability here so that people can understand the process and that we can answer to the American people to show somebody is going to take the hit for this if they have to.
In so many of my conversations as well, it has been, they're not just questions about what went wrong, but where do we go from here? What visible changes, to your point, are we going to see? Robert McDonald, former agent with the Secret Service, thank you for joining us for your perspective in this conversation.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.